Now, around 2 years ago, Hyundai shocked the world with the introduction of the first ever Veloster N. It was the first ever legitimate hot hatch from the Korean car manufacturer that proved to a lot of enthusiasts that Hyundai needed to be taken seriously in the sport compact arena. I'm talking about competitors, of course, like the Honda Civic Type R, the Volkswagen GTI and Golf R, and of course the Subaru WRX. Now, for 2021, Hyundai is expanding the appeal of the Veloster N with a new transmission option this year. That's right, if you guys are looking to buy a Veloster N, you can take your pick between the standard 6-speed manual, which is lovely, or for $1,500 more, Hyundai is now offering this hot hatch with an 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission, complete with launch control, complete with very, very quick shifts that you just can't duplicate in a 6-speed manual transmission model. So if you guys have always had your eye on the Veloster N, should you put this new transmission at the top of your list? Stay tuned to find out. Now, of course, with any hot hatch, you guys are probably wondering what's going on underneath the hood. Now, Hyundai did make some improvements this year, not just in the transmission department. Of course, you're going to get the standard 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that we find under the hood of every Veloster N. And the standard output this year is 275 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. Remember, there was a time where Hyundai used to ship this car out with just 250 horsepower and then make you pay about $2,000 extra for the performance package that ramped up the boost to produce 275 horsepower and 260 pound-feet of torque. That is standard on every Veloster N this year, which is definitely nice. It puts the Veloster N a little bit closer to its rivals, which have a little over 300 horsepower. Now, in addition to the standard 6-speed manual, if you guys go for this 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission and you push the overboost function on the steering wheel, it'll give you 20 seconds of maximum attack mode, and Hyundai says it'll also increase the torque to 278 pound-feet for those brief instances to give you maximum acceleration. Now, this particular one here is the dual clutch, like I mentioned, and the Veloster N continues to only be front-wheel drive. Their limited slip differential, their N corner carving diff, is standard this year. Previously, it was part of the performance package. It's now standard. And if you guys want the dual clutch, Hyundai says you'll get to 60 in around 5.6 seconds. So it is slightly quicker, of course, than the manual. Sadly, fuel economy did go down a little bit with the dual clutch. It's rated to get 20 in the city, 27 on the highway. You can blame that, of course, for the weight of the transmission and the tuning of this vehicle. As this one sits, it weighs in at just over 3,100 pounds. Now, Hyundai didn't make any styling changes to the exterior, so I'm not going to talk too much about the styling. However, I will say the Veloster N continues to be one of the most attractive and strangest looking hot hatches on the market, especially when you guys have it painted in this chalk white exterior color with the red accents. Now, just like the 2020 model, the front fascia is very distinctive on the N model. You're going to have an N-specific grille, the N badge to the left side of the grille. You have the standard LED daytime running lights with LED low beam headlights, just an incandescent turn signal and halogen high beams. And then down here, you can see some exposed functional vents that help deal with the cooling, help create an air curtain over those wheels. And in this chalk white exterior color, you can see the Veloster N certainly looks like a very distinctive car. I especially like the chalk white, although you can also pick this vehicle in other color options. Their signature blue is also a really beautiful color choice. Now, because the performance package is now standard this year, you got these standard 19-inch wheels with bigger, higher performance brakes. They aren't a Brembo specific brake, but you can see that they are painted red with an N logo stamped on the caliper. You get Pirelli P0 summer performance tires, which aren't the best tire choice right now because it's 35 degrees outside, but you can see here they're wrapped in 35 width tires, and you get that limited slip differential. Now, on this side of the vehicle, you can see the Veloster N is a 2-door. You can very much tell it's a 2-door. However, just like the regular Veloster, as we come around to the rear of the vehicle and to the other side, which let me show you guys the other side real quick, you can see there is a separate half door on the passenger side because this vehicle does give you 3 doors, whereas on the passenger side, you can kind of open up this door here to reveal the space. Hyundai says you get around 34 inches of legroom back here, so this is the side you want to get onto if you guys need to put people in the back seat, which we'll talk about the interior in just a moment. The rear of the vehicle, you can see you have this really nice looking rear spoiler with some faux carbon fiber accents on the spoiler, and then you have kind of an LED combination rear tail light, which also has incandescent bulbs. The rear bumper hasn't changed. You still have these massive twin exhaust pipes, which this is one of the best sounding hot hatches on the market. It makes every other hot hatch sound like a vacuum cleaner, specifically the Honda Civic Type R. Opening up the cargo area, you can see Hyundai continues to offer just around 20 cubic feet of space, and you can fold down those seats to maximize the cargo capacity. Now on the outside, Hyundai didn't change the look of the Veloster N for 2021. They didn't really need to. However, the interior, this is where you're going to spend the most of your time with this vehicle. And to be honest, Hyundai changed the biggest thing about this car, my biggest criticism last year, and that's the seats. As you can see, looking at this new N lightweight specific sports seat, it is a combination, of course, of leather with cloth with this really nice blue accent and the contrasting stitching. This logo here also lights up at night. You can see it's somewhat lit up. You also have these nice little exposed holes here where you can put a 5-point racing harness in this vehicle. The seats are highly comfortable, highly supportive, and the only sad thing about them is they aren't heated. Hyundai doesn't also offer a power seat option. Remember, this is all built to a specific price point. You can see the rest of the interior, the door panel looks pretty plain. This hasn't changed over the 2020 model. And the dash also looks pretty much the same as well. You get some of that blue stitching and the blue contrasts and such. Those are the N specific colors. When I shut the door has a nice, relatively solid sounding thunk, and you can see the N model comes with this very nice blue seatbelt color along with the blue trim on the steering wheel. Now here's the key fob for the vehicle. This is the current Hyundai key fob. It has an N badge on it to let you know that this is the N model. The button to fire up the engine is over here in the place that you usually expect it to be. And the vehicle fires right up, and it doesn't sound all that great at first when the starter first engages, but then push this little checkered flag button here, and the exhaust opens up a baffle, and listen to this, guys. That noise would make any Civic Type R driver envious because the Honda just doesn't sound as good as this. This sounds better, of course, than the Volkswagen. This reminds me of the old Ford Focus RS, which isn't in production anymore. So again, wonderful noise. I love the fact that Hyundai did that with the exhaust system. Now looking at the rest of this cabin, you can see nothing really has changed. The Veloster has kind of a cheaper interior for the segment. You have hard touch plastic everywhere here, as you expect for something that's at this price point. Hard touch plastic here. I wish they kind of addressed this and added a little bit more bright aluminum trim, like something over here to replace the sea of black plastic. It's also hard touch plastic over here. The driver window is one touch down and one touch up. The passenger window is just manual. They should have just made it one touch for all three. I mean, there's only 3 windows here. There's one, of course, for the rear seat. Some new features this year, you can see paddles shifters for the 8-speed dual clutch. You have new safety features here like blind spot monitoring, lane keep assist, which is definitely nice. You can see here's the transmission shifter for the 8-speed. It's a very traditional looking shifter. It has a manual mode here, or you can also use the paddles, which is nice when you put the car into reverse. There's the backup camera that you get. No parking sensors. It's a pretty much a basic looking backup camera. Now here, looking at the infotainment screen, you can see I want to show you guys the CarPlay. First, when you have your phone plugged in, it doesn't have wireless CarPlay. But as soon as your phone is plugged in, it should populate. I don't know why it didn't there. Okay, so there you go. As I plugged it in, there's the Apple CarPlay. It looks okay. This is an 8-inch screen, which is standard. It comes with their factory embedded GPS, which is, of course, pretty nice. This screen is nothing super special to look at. Now, coming over here, I want to show you guys the new layout here, the new interface. This is the one that I've shown you, of course, in the newer Hyundai and Kia products. It comes with their BlueLink as standard. If you go to the map display here, here's their embedded GPS, which most of you probably wouldn't be using this anyways. You'll probably just be using the one that you find on your phone, which is very much understandable. This N mode here, of course, did get a slight upgrade this year. When you go to this page here looks pretty much identical. However, if you want to adjust a few things, first of all, if I want to go to custom here, they've changed the way this looks to a spider graph now, where you can individually tune the exhaust sound, the E-slip, differential, the transmission, engine, suspension, and steering, and then they give you like little details on what it's going to change when you guys mess with that setting. The other thing that they give you here is if in addition to an oil temp, torque, and a turbo boost gauge and a G-force meter, you can go to performance options here, and this is how you engage the launch control in this car. You can adjust the RPM. I think Hyundai allows you to go to a maximum of 3,500 RPM, which I wouldn't launch any higher than that considering this is front drive. It also gives you a shift indicator, an N-track shift sense, and an N power shift mode, which basically, again, helps you with driving this vehicle out on the track. So again, very cool amount of customization here, and the user interface is pretty easy to use. Now looking at the steering wheel, you can see here, your drive mode selector is here. There's a normal, sport, and an eco, and then push the checkered flag button here. You can go to an N specific mode, which is the most aggressive, and then that custom mode where you can tailor the individual settings that you'd like. I'll probably spend the majority of my time in the N specific mode. NGS stands for N grin shift. Push that button here when it's in drive, and it'll give you 20 seconds of overboost where you have extra torque. It's pretty similar to the Porsche Sport response button. Very cool that Hyundai decided to throw that in. Like I said earlier, the seats are very comfortable and supportive. You have usual amount of storage here, 2 USB ports right here, no wireless phone charger, but a good storage bin for your phone there. Cup holders, a traditional pull handbrake for those of you who want to do those J turns. Slightly padded armrest here, but it's not lined in leather or anything like that. Good amount of storage right there. And then if you open this up, you can see the glove box is a pretty good size. It's stamped, but it's not lined with felt. So overall, the interior of the Veloster N, the key upgrade that it got, of course, were the seats. This is what the car really needed. They also lighten, these are lighter than the old seats by about 4.8 pounds. Even though the dual clutch is heavier, these seats, again, are more supportive and comfortable. They look better, and they're also functional because they're actually lighter versus the previous generation seats. You know, I'll never get tired of the pop, pop crackles that you get from the exhaust on the Veloster N. When I first drove this car 2 years ago, I was completely blown away. Hyundai's performance division N, I mean, they have the guy from BMW M division working for them, and he knows how to build a car for enthusiasts. This car is a joy. Now, I love how it came with a 6-speed manual, of course, but everybody was curious, would Hyundai offer another transmission? And today I'm finally driving the Veloster N with the dual clutch. This is their new in-house designed 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission. And honestly, well, let's try the launch control first. That way you guys can see what it's like. To access launch control, you go into the screen here, go to performance options, set the launch RPM and hit activate here. Floor the brake and the accelerator. Now, I will say that as you can see, there is a ton of snow out there, and Hyundai delivered this car on its summer Pirelli P0 tires. It's like 38 degrees right now. So I'm not going to be able to get the best launch right now, but you know what? That was still very impressive considering how cold it is outside, and I've got summer tires on this thing. That noise. Hyundai basically says with the dual clutch, you're going to get to 60 in 5.6 seconds. That is a conservative number. I saw Car and Driver just tested this vehicle in ideal conditions, and they got 4.8 seconds to 60. 4.8 seconds to 60 for a hot little hatch like this that cost around $33,000. That is just insane. This is one of the cheapest ways you can get into the 5-second 0 to 60 club nowadays. It's cheaper than a Civic Type R still, which was the other vehicle that could do it. A Golf R can also do it, but it's much more expensive. This will eat Volkswagen GTIs all day long, GLIs as well, Civic SIs. And it sounds better than all of them as well. Oh, this car is just absolutely insane. Chirping into second gear on a dual clutch. You guys heard that. This car does come, of course, with their corner carving end differential. So it's an E limited slip differential. 19-inch wheels are standard. The performance package is now standard this year. So of course you do get the upgraded brakes. You get the additional 25 horsepower. And with the dual clutch now, even though this weighs a little bit more, oh, it is just such a joy. Much better than the joyless CVT option that you get in something like a WRX. Oh, this is just fantastic. I love how snappy and responsive it is, even with the paddles. I was not expecting it to do that into first. That is freaking awesome. Now, the one thing that's cool about this car is it also comes with an NGS. That stands for N-Grin Shift. Push this button right here by the checkered flag, and it kind of goes into a Porsche Sport Response button. Push that button there, 20 seconds of overboost. Everything's in full-on attack mode. And it also increases the torque of the engine from 260 pound-feet up to 278 pound-feet for this 20 seconds. That is just insane that it gives you that. They took it from Porsche, but I love that it's in this little Veloster N. That is so cool. So anytime you're looking for a quick burst, I can have the car in comfort mode or normal mode. Just push that NGS button and everything goes into a maximum attack mode for 20 seconds. Although I will say the button is not very well labeled. Most people are gonna look at that and say, what the hell does NGS mean? And you kind of can lose it pretty quick. What a noise. I love this noise. I love this powertrain. It feels like a 5-ish second car in these conditions. It is so fast. The steering is so quick and responsive. The suspension stays nice and flat. Now, I will say that they had to retune the shocks in the dual clutch model because of the weight distribution. It's a little more nose heavy now in this particular combination. So I am noticing the ride quality in the dual clutch model is a smidge rougher in normal mode. In Sport Plus mode, however, I'm noticing the ride is actually more comfortable than the last manual transmission model I tested, which is weird. But the Veloster N's always had more of a harder ride quality than its competitors, and that's kind of what you expect when you buy a hatch like this. Just because we can, let's try the launch control one more time. Surprisingly, no torque steer there, just a little bit of wheel hop as the transmission and computers tried to settle it down and wrangle all that power in, but that is just so much fun to drive. I cannot believe how good this little car is. This is just insane. Oh, listen to that noise. Makes you forget that this is a front-wheel drive car. And the way it takes corners, the eagerness of it, the exhaust noise, the way it pulls. This dual clutch is the perfect partner for this 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder. And you know what? It's coming in the Elantra N. A full-on N version of the Elantra is coming if you guys don't like the Veloster's funky 3-door body style. But I like the changes that Hyundai has made this year. These new seats are very comfortable. They hold you in place really nicely. They added some driver assistance tech like blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist. You still can't get adaptive cruise in this car, which is weird. They should have just thrown it in on the dual clutch models, considering you have all the other features. I like the new 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system with Apple CarPlay, of course. It's not wireless. And then I wish they also threw in heated seats and a heated wheel. You can get that in other markets, not in the US, sadly. But this car is just such a joy. It's so much bang for your buck. So much bang for your buck. Comfortable interior, great seats, attractive design on the outside. Like, I'm just blown away. They've made the Veloster N even better this year, and I didn't think this as an enthusiast. I love the manual transmission model, but you know what? This dual clutch is a very, very enticing option for $1,500. Consider it if you guys are looking for a hot hatch, because it's quicker, it's easier to drive in traffic. It doesn't get getter gas miles, that's for sure. In my week's worth of testing, I only averaged 20 miles to the gallon in this thing because I just constantly had a big grin on my face. On the highway, I got around 25 miles to the gallon, so it doesn't get better gas mileage, I don't think, than the manual, but that's okay because it is better to drive in every way possible. I couldn't shift as fast as this if I tried. So Hyundai, you have my attention with this car. The Veloster N is one hell of a hot hatch, and they only made it better this year. So as an enthusiast, I'm practically torn after driving this new Veloster N. Yes, I love the Veloster N with the 6-speed manual transmission. I love how Hyundai comes standard with a 6-speed manual on something like this. But you know what? Traffic nowadays is just kind of a pain in the butt if you guys live in highly congested areas. So it makes sense that Hyundai would offer the Veloster N with a new dual clutch transmission. In fact, there are a lot of enthusiasts who said I would buy a Veloster N if they just offered it with an automatic dual clutch option, or a Civic Type R if they offered a dual clutch option. Now that I've had a chance to sample the Veloster N with the dual clutch, I'm pretty impressed to say that this is probably the transmission to get to be honest. Not only does it make the Veloster N faster, it also makes it just easier to live with on a daily basis. And even though the fuel economy kind of went down, the fact that this offers launch controls, the fact that it has those paddles with the very responsive shifts, the quick shifts, the noises this thing makes, I was having a ball driving this car for the last couple of days before the snow came in. And really, the dual clutch model for $1,500 is a very enticing proposition. You can't go wrong, of course, with the manual. But if you guys want a Veloster and you don't want to deal with traffic and driving a stick, this dual clutch option is the best transmission in the business in terms of hot hatches. Yes, you could also get the Volkswagen Golf R with a lovely dual clutch, but that car is going to be significantly more expensive. And there's also a new version coming out. But remember, the Golf R starts at around $40,000, whereas this car starts at $32,500 for the base version, add $1,500 for the dual clutch, and you're looking at just under $34,000. Now, of course, it is $4,500 more versus the 2020 model, but now that Hyundai made the performance package as standard, you're really only looking at a $2,400 increase. And with the fact that you get all that new driver assistance features, you get those new N lightweight sports seats, you get the new infotainment system, I'd probably say that it's worth the extra charge. This is still significantly less expensive than a Volkswagen GTI and a Honda Civic Type R and even a Subaru WRX. But with all that said, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2021 Veloster N with the new dual clutch transmission. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews. Like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.